On this short video, I want to discuss something that many people were wondering about, and that is in which cases of a Talmudic tractate the commentary that's printed next to it is not of Rashi. Of course, the main commentary, which is always learned with the Talmud, and it's probably one of the best commentaries. There's a reason why for almost 1,000 years the Jewish people are learning it, and it's always printed together with the Talmud. That is the commentary of Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, Rashi. The problem is that not in every tractate do we have real Rashi, and in a few cases there are disputes if it's Rashi or not. So let's start with the basics. The tractate Tamid, which is not a full tractate, it's the only Babylonian tractate. There's no Rashi on any tractates of Jerusalem Talmud, by the way. We're only talking about Babylonian Talmud. In fact, Rashi very rarely quotes Jerusalem Talmud. He does it once in a while, in the beginning of Brachot, for instance, but he wasn't really busy learning the Jerusalem Talmud on regular basis. And as opposed to Rabbeinu Hananiel and many other Rishonim, for whom Jerusalem Talmud was incredibly important, Rashi only very rarely relies and interprets according to Jerusalem Talmud. So the main learning, just like today for most Jews, is the Babylonian Talmud. And there is one tractate that's not full. It's the only tractate where it's basically partial commentary, not on all the Mishnayot. Generally, there is either a Babylonian Talmud to a certain tractate, or there is no Babylonian Talmud. There's only one tractate that has partial Babylonian Talmud, and that is tractate Tamid, which talks about the temple offerings. And there, the commentary is for sure not Rashi. There's no dispute whatsoever that the commentator that's printed there is not Rashi. It's very clear, very obvious to everyone. Then, it's well known that at the end of tractate Makot and closer to the beginning of tractate Bava Batra, there is a place where it says this is where Rashi died. He didn't finish the commentary, and therefore a different commentary is printed. In the case of Makot, it's I think his son-in-law. It's very, very little. It's just a few pages left that he didn't finish. But in the case of Bava Batra, by the way, the cycle of Daf Yomi will soon get to Bava Batra, and there the majority of the tractate does not have Rashi. It has the commentary of his grandson Rashbam printed. Instead, it's a much longer commentary. That's why the tractate was printed in much more pages. So in the cycle of Daf Yomi, learning 1 page a day, Bava Batra becomes the longest tractate. It's not because the tractate itself is longer than, let's say, Bava Kama. It's because the commentator to it, the grandson of Rashi, is much longer, and that's why there's more words, so there's less words of the Talmud that's printed per page on average, because of longer commentary that has to be printed. So those two are also well known. Now, I'm going to list a few other tractates where the commentary seems to be Rashi, or at least it's presented as Rashi, but there are good reasons to believe it's not Rashi. It could be some of them were written by students of Rashi, students of students, and in some cases we even might have an alternative commentary that is true Rashi. I'm just going to list them quickly for those who want to know more details. They could research each one. There are specific reasons and proofs usually offered by the style, by the quotes of other Rishonim. What's called scientific method. How do we determine altogether what manuscript is written by whom and when things were mislabeled? So it's usually based on, first of all, the style of the specific rabbi, secondly, the quotes of that person in other sources and whether they match what we have in front of us. So in particular, these are the candidates for possibly not Rashi's commentary, or if it's based maybe on Rashi, but there were other things added. And in some cases, we have even a candidate for possibly who is the true author of this commentary. In most cases, we don't have any idea who wrote the commentary, but it seems that it's not Rashi, just based on style and quotes from other sources. So here is the list. Tractate Ta'anit, that has to do with fasts. The style is very different from Rashi. It's a longer commentary, and some of the quotes he makes, Rashi would not do, and his constant reliance on his teachers. Rashi very rarely quotes his teachers openly, and many other reasons why it's believed that it's not true Rashi. One of the people who wrote a long tshuva proving that is Maharatz Chayes, Rav Tzvi Hirsch Hayes. Well, there was a certain rabbi like that. Rav Hutner's daughter at some point wrote a dissertation on him in Columbia University. So Tractate Tani, Tractate Moed Katan. There is in fact an alternative printed commentator that is apparently the true Rashi. Tractate Mi'ila, tractates Nidarim and Nazir. In yeshivot, usually people, when they study Nazir or Nidarim, they use a different commentary. In yeshivas, it's common to learn commentary of Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim, to Nidarim, and the commentary of Tosafot or Rosh to Nazir. But what's printed under Rashi there is usually ignored because it's generally accepted that it's not true Rashi. There are parts apparently of Tractate Kritot that may be not from Rashi. And at last, Tractate Horayot. There's good reasons to believe that the commentary there is not Rashi. And also apparently there are questions about the end of Sanhedrin, the last perek of Sanhedrin, to what extent it's actually fully coming from the pen of Rashi. So here was the list, I hope I didn't miss anything, of the main tractates where there are questions whether the commentator is Rashi or not. Now there is no commentary of Rashi on Mishnayot altogether. Rashi didn't write commentaries on Mishnayot, only what's part of the Talmud, not as a separate commentary. But there is one set of Mishnayot which doesn't have Talmud, which has a commentary that's printed by us that's named after Rashi, and that is Tractate Avot, Pirkei Avot, the teachings of fathers, so-called, the ethical tractate. So there also there's a big question if it's truly commentary of Rashi, and if it's based on Rashi, then to what extent is it based on Rashi? Is it really fully from Rashi or only partially, and there were additions to it? And there are various manuscripts and various versions of that commentary. So that's all I wanted to say for today. Rashi or not Rashi? A different question is in the terms of Tanach. Which of the books of Tanach? We have a commentary on the entire Jewish Bible, Hebrew Bible, with Rashi. But the question is, which are truly Rashi? Of course, on every book there could be additions from students sometimes, but these are minor. 99% of the commentary on the Chumash, for instance, is from Rashi. There are only questions of certain places where there's in different manuscripts, sometimes small additions, Rashi Yashan, whatever, and a lot of times it's printed in parentheses, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when the whole commentary to the entire book, maybe not from Rashi. So it's very clear that the commentary to Divrei Hayamim is not from Rashi. Whoever is the commentator there, he sometimes argues with Rashi, sometimes quotes Rashi. It's definitely not Rashi. Now, the commentator to Ezra and Nehemiah, there are suspicions that it's also not Rashi. And as far as I know, the rest of the Nevi'im and Ktuvim, and like I said, the entire Chumash, generally the commentator is accepted to be Rashi, except maybe there are certain additions. There are, of course, in our printed edition of Rashi, all kinds of things where it becomes clear it's not Rashi. For example, in one place, Rashi quotes, quote unquote, quotes Migalei Amukot, who lived 500 years later or something. In another place, he quotes Arizal, right? So these are obvious additions to Rashi. Whoever was copying the manuscript of Rashi would put in the parentheses some word from Arizal or some word from Migalei Amukot, and then later it ended up in our editions of Rashi. So these are examples where it's obvious. Some less obvious examples also exist. But the main commentary, certainly the majority of the commentary to all of these books, whether it's the book of Melachim, for instance, or the book of Yeshayahu, there's no question that all of these are truly commentaries of Rashi, except maybe some minor later additions from students. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.